to us about racism and the very, very beginning of what she considers to be racism as the institution of slavery. I think, Lana, you would also, as you have contended earlier, that the 13th Amendment freed Africans from slavery, the 14th Amendment made them citizens, and of course, the 15th Amendment made them voters. But also, I think you also indicated that racism arose after this as well, and that one organization that I think you're familiar with played a significant role in that. Why don't you start off there and perhaps read some information that you say that is very, very instrumental in what you have to say?
Well, the book I have here, if you haven't noticed, is The Dark 30 by Patricia C. McKissick. It is a story about the Southern tales of the supernatural. I'm kind of into that stuff. And I would like to read a little passage out of the book, which is kind of a little preview of one of the chapters. It reads, "The Ku Klux Klan is the most well-known white supremacist organization in the country. Since its early beginnings, the Klan has used racial and religious intolerance to terrorize people in their homes, churches, and synagogues, schools, and businesses until recent years with impunity. To the Klan, anybody who is different is automatically inferior. One of the most powerful periods for the KKK was the 1930s. Klansmen draped in white robes and hoods meted out horrific punishments for so-called crimes that somebody amounted to no more than sassing or being uppity. But a 19th century poet and editor, William Cullen Bryant, gave a warning to all those who would make a mockery of justice, saying, Truth crushed to earth will rise again. You can count on it."
And of course, I think, Lana, that sort of allows us to move really into your discussion in reference to the Tuskegee Airmen, because I think that what your author here is saying, that for the most part, this group of individuals that you referred to as the KKK, the Ku Klux Klan, came into being just about the time of the beginning of the Second World War. And this is where I think that your Tuskegee Air persons played a significant role. Who were these Tuskegee Airmen?
Well, the Tuskegee Airmen, there was not foundation, but kind of group like the NAACP in Tuskegee, Alabama. Now, that group was of African American men who weren't allowed to be airmen at that time. And they organized in which the government would give them small little missions as easy as blowing up a train. But then they gave them one mission, and it was to fight in World War II. Now they worked up and up and up and up to get promoted to that rank of fighting in World War II, because they were African Americans, and the government, they only treated them like they would treat a slave. They just gave them simple things to do, didn't say nothing, just went on with their daily lives, and gave other white people the harder jobs, which they didn't even want to do. So the people who wanted to do it couldn't do it, and the people who didn't want to do it had to do it. So does that sound right to you?
So these are the Tuskegee Airmen that played a significant role in the Second World War. And you think that for whatever reason the government was guilty of some kind of racism against them?
Well, yes, because since the Brown versus the Board of Education case, nobody likes blacks. Nobody would treat them equally. They all treated them like outsiders, like they didn't fit in. Well, that was the same as the next guy, but...
Well, did that have anything to do with separation and segregation?
Yes, that's the whole reason of segregation, because if you were black, you were segregated. If you were African, you were segregated. If you were Mexican, you were segregated. If you were mixed, you were segregated.
And so racism,
if you were white, you were segregated.
Racism plays a significant role in the separation of the races that you so often talk about. Is that what you're saying?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, I don't understand why people would do this to innocent people. I mean, they don't deserve that. Just because the color of their skin doesn't mean they deserve to be X'd out, to be outed. Just because of a simple color of their skin, just because of simple color.
London, you know, at your age, do you find that there are many children your age, 8 and 9 years old, that has some kind of concept in terms of what you're talking about, this idea of racism and et cetera? Or have you heard any of them express some of the things that you're talking about? Where'd you get this information from?
This is why I'm telling you, because children don't understand how big slavery was. They don't say, oh, people had to be a slave. I think that's so wrong. They don't understand how complex that was. They don't understand how cruel that was, how horrific and how terrible slavery was. And I got all this information because I've read social studies, and I just want people to know that if you see somebody being bullied or something, like I said earlier, bullied, stop it.
So you're saying that bullying can also be racism, and is that an example you're trying to give us?
Yes, that's how bullying can be. It was slavery, racism, slavery, segregation, bullying, cyberbullying, and more. I've had bullying.
So all of these things are really the outcome. When we talk about racism, we're not talking about just color. We're talking about the attitude that people, in a real sense, have toward those individuals that they might consider to be less fortunate than themselves. Would that be correct?
Slavery is anything but a color. Slavery is more than that. Slavery is more than anything. Slavery is so important, and people need to get up and smell the roses because they don't understand how important this is. They need to get up and drink the coffee. Get up and understand how big this is.
Now, I think you were also a part of the 140th celebration of Tennessee's entrance into the Civil War, were you not? And you did a lot of information in reference to that, about the importance of that. And so you're still saying that young people your age ought to be concerned not only about the 140th year anniversary of the Civil War, but they ought to be really concerned this day about slavery. Is that what you're saying?
They need to they need to learn about where they came from, and they need to learn about their history. They need to learn about their real family tree, how their family tree came to be. They need to learn about themselves.
Okay, very good, Lana. And so this is the end of this second segment. And when we come back, we're going to pick up on some other aspects of this. But that's essentially the kind of information we wanted. And of course, we'll be back with our audience following this very, very short commercial break.